Hi guys, so we have the carburetor off the Rhino 450. As you can see, it's got a little bit of a gas stain around the seal down here for the bowl, and a little bit of a stain up here too. So the main reason we had or wanted to rip this thing off was because it was leaking gas while the side-by-side was running. What happens is there's a float in here that allows so much fuel in, and then it has like a shut off. And when the fuel goes through here, it goes up through, and it's supposed to have a shut off in there so it doesn't overfill. And one, go down to your engine, two, just leak all over the ground. What happens is after years of these things sitting with the crappy gas that we have nowadays, they will actually stick. So they'll just keep letting fuel go and they won't stop. So what we're going to do is rip this apart, clean it all up. We do have to get new seals. You can buy rebuild kits for these carburetors on eBay, on Amazon, stuff like that, relatively cheap. You can actually buy a whole new carburetor for like 30 bucks, which is kind of crazy. But they are aftermarket, they are Chinese ones. I do not recommend them. But with the seals that come in those rebuild kits, I've had good luck with those. So what we might do is get a kit and just reuse this, or don't reuse the jets after we clean them, but put new seals in them. So let's jump into this, rip this apart, and see what we see. Here is your float. Your needle is right down here. So we'll have to take that out. The gas goes up through here and then comes into the carburetor this way. You have your jets. We'll take all those out, clean them. They should be fine because the quads seem to run perfectly fine. It's just leaked gas everywhere. So if you do have to adjust, you can adjust the floats by moving that little tab right here. You can adjust it so it lets more or less fuel in. You can see right here the seal is very brittle and it's just falling apart. We got some carb clean in the cap here. So these jets in here. Let's take this one apart. At 8 mil. All right, so we have the jets and everything in here setting and cleaning themselves, hopefully. Here is the needle. You can see this is rubber, and that's actually what seals. It goes down into the carburetor right in here. Hopefully you'll be able to see. There you go. A little hole down in there. That seals down there. So the needle and seat, you can get new ones of these as well and replace everything. This thing looks in good shape, so we're just going to make sure it's nice and clean. Here's the bowl. Also looks very clean, surprisingly. And this is the seal that we're going to get in the new rebuild kit. Now, these are the floats. They are plastic. The older bikes and stuff had like brass ones, and they would get holes in them, and they would fill up with gas, and they would not work. This one looks to be in great shape. There's no leaks or anything in it, as in there's no gas, so we should be good. Next part is we're going to get this carburetor. We're going to rip the top of it apart and clean it all up the best we can, and then make sure all these passages through the jets and all that, they're all clear, so it'll run like tip-top shape. Alright, so we're going to take the top part, little cap off. Now there is a spring, so you can see it. There's a spring, so just hold down on it. Big old spring. Now this, we'll just pull up out. Just make sure you don't tear it. Everything's actually looking very, very clean. Okay, so on these, you can adjust these needles. You can put washers in there. Some of these are adjustable, and you just pull it out from up here. It's hard to see. There you go. You just pull that up out, and all this and all the insides come about with it. We're just going to clean this up. You want to look at this diaphragm, make sure it's in good shape. A little crusty on top, but I don't see any holes. So it looks pretty good. So we're just going to clean it up, and we can just put that right back in. Okay, now we're going to take this little guy apart. It's got a spring in it. Look at that guy come flying out of there. Be very careful with this. Do is if you have all this apart, there's no more like rubber seals or anything. If you have an ultrasonic cleaner, you can throw this thing in there and get it all nice and clean. Now I don't have one, so we're going to do a spray like carb clean down through the ports with compressed air, make sure everything's good, and then we can put it all back together. So I've been running this hard for what, over a year now. Works pretty good, except for now I lost power number 3. So here's number 3. Right? Worked that time. Presley charged battery too, so we'll switch back to 2. Kind of stinks, but still works. Wow, we got this done just in time. It's like a flipping hurricane out here. Pennsylvania weather is just insane, but got the used tires on it that are in way better shape. Found out that the wheels that were on the Brute were actually aluminum wheels. So the backs are aluminum with relatively good tires on it. The front still have the Brute tires, but the wheels are steel that came on this Rhino. So they are a good bit heavier. Again, not looking for performance on this thing, just for it to drive around and get us through the trails and my wife to go get the mail. So we got the rebuild kit in the mail, so we slapped it back into the carb, and now we're gonna just button it back up to the Rhino. This thing was leaking a little bit of gas out of the overflow. The bowl wasn't sealing correctly, so we just got a new seat, new gasket for the bowl because that thing was all dry rotted and kind of cracking. So you can buy these kits on eBay, on Amazon. They come with basically everything you need. I do not recommend running the jets. They're kind of a generic thing, so I don't recommend doing that. If the factory ones are still good, which they usually just need a cleaning, just run those. But either way, got the car back on here. We're gonna fire this thing up and hope for the best. After letting this thing run for a while, we decided, hey, let's slap it all back together, take it for a little spin. It barely needed any choke, and it fired right up, idling nice and smooth here. So yeah, I would say job well done. If you guys have any questions or comments about rebuilding these carburetors, don't be afraid to leave them in the comment section below. As always, God bless.